In the heart of Ilaria, where trees grew from living crystal and rivers flowed with liquid starlight, the elves lived in perfect harmony with the cosmos. Their skin shimmered faintly, their eyes held galaxies, and their voices carried the music of ancient spheres. Every child born under the twin moons was expected to glow with the ancestral light, a sign they were truly of Ilaria. But Lyra did not glow. From the moment she drew her first breath in the silver birthing grove, silence fell over the gathered elders. Her skin was warm and soft like sun-baked stone. Her eyes were deep brown, not silver or violet or gold like the others. And when the moonbeam touched her forehead, a ritual that awakened the inner light in every newborn, nothing happened. No shimmer, no hum, no song. The High Seer, a woman with hair like frozen mist, declared it a flaw in the bloodline, perhaps a mutation, perhaps a curse. No one knew. But in a society that valued purity above all, difference was not celebrated. It was erased. Lyra grew up on the edge of the whispering wastes, far from the glowing spires of the inner cities. Her home was a small dome woven from memory vines and salvaged sky glass, built by her mother before she vanished one night, leaving only a note etched on a shard of obsidian. "You are not broken. You are waiting." Her only companion was Kyle. Kyle was not like the great war dragons of Ilarian legend, towering beasts with wings that blotted out stars and breath that could melt mountains. He was small, no bigger than a house cat when Lyra first found him curled inside a hollow meteorite that had crashed near her shelter. His scales were smooth and iridescent, shifting from deep violet to sea green depending on his mood. But unlike other dragons, he had never breathed fire, not once. When he tried, only a puff of warm air came out and his eyes would dim with shame. Still, he stayed. He followed Lyra through the ruins of the old ones, ancient structures older than Ilarian history, buried beneath dunes of singing sand. They searched for answers. Lyra believed the ruins held the truth about why she was born without the glow. Kale believed they might find something to help him ignite his flame. The days passed in quiet routine. Lyra would study the glyphs carved into fallen pillars, tracing symbols that looked like constellations trapped in stone. Kale would circle above, his wings catching the light, scanning for danger or hidden entrances. Sometimes when the twin moons aligned, the ruins would hum and the air would thicken with energy. On those nights, Lyra felt something stir inside her. Not magic, exactly, but a deep, quiet pull, like a heartbeat from another world. One evening, as the violet sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned the color of bruised fruit, Lyra sat cross-legged before a half-buried archway covered in spiraling script. Kale lay beside her, his tail curled around her ankle, his head resting on her knee. She ran her fingers over a symbol that repeated again and again. 2 circles, one inside the other, with a line connecting them like a bridge. "Twin worlds," she whispered, "bound by resonance." Kale lifted his head and blinked slowly, his scales shifting to a soft amber. He didn't understand the words, but he understood her tone, hopeful yet heavy. Suddenly the ground trembled. Not from an earthquake, but from something tearing through the sky itself. A crack split the heavens, jagged and bright like glass breaking in slow motion. Wind howled from nowhere, pulling at Lyra's hair and clothes. Kyle hissed and flared his wings, stepping in front of her. From the rift tumbled a shape, human but wrong. It fell fast, trailing smoke and sparks, and crashed into the sand just 50 paces away. The rift snapped shut behind it, leaving only silence and the smell of burnt ozone. Lyra didn't hesitate. She ran toward the crater, Kale close at her heels. Inside, half buried in scorched sand, lay a boy. He was young, maybe 17 by Earth standards, with short brown hair, a torn flight suit, and a gash on his temple. In his hand he clutched a device, smooth, black, and pulsing with a soft blue light. As Lyra knelt beside him, the device flared. The blue light brightened, then steadied as if recognizing her. She reached out, and the moment her fingers brushed its surface, warmth spread through her chest. It wasn't painful. It felt like coming home. The boy groaned. His eyes fluttered open, brown like hers. He stared at her, confused, then at Kale, who was now hovering protectively over them both, his scales flickering between blue and silver. "Where am I?" he whispered, his voice rough. "Ilaria," Lyra said softly. "You're safe." He tried to sit up but winced. "My ship, the Hollow, did it follow me?" "I don't know what that is," Lyra said. "But you're not alone." Kale nudged the boy's hand with his snout. The boy blinked in surprise, then managed a weak smile. You've got a dragon. He's my friend, Lyra said. The device in the boy's hand beeped once, then displayed a single word in glowing letters. Match confirmed. Lyra didn't understand what it meant, but something in her knew. This was not an accident. This boy had been sent here. To her, in the distance, a horn sounded, low, mournful, and sharp. The Alarian sentinels. They had detected the rift. They would come to investigate, and if they found an off-worlder in the wastes, especially with Lyra, they would not be merciful. We have to move, Lyra said, helping the boy to his feet. He swayed but stood. Can you walk? Barely, he admitted. Name's Daniel. Lyra, she said. And this is Kale. Daniel looked at the small dragon, then at Lyra's plain face, her ordinary hands, her lack of glow. You're not like the others, are you? No, she said simply. But maybe that's why you're here. They hurried back to her shelter as the first lights of the sentinel skiffs appeared on the horizon, glowing orbs riding silent currents of air. Inside the dome, Lyra activated the old cloaking field she'd rigged from scavenged tech. The walls shimmered and faded, blending into the dunes. Daniel leaned against a pillar, breathing hard. I was running a last-ditch jump, he said. Earth's fleet is gone. The hollow consumed everything. I activated the resonance tether. It was supposed to find someone compatible, someone who could stabilize the dimensional anchor. And it led you to me, Lyra asked. It led me to you, he confirmed, looking at her with wonder. But you don't have any energy signature. No bioluminescence, no psychic field, nothing the scanner should pick up. Maybe it wasn't looking for power, Lyra said. Maybe it was looking for balance. Kale climbed onto her shoulder and let out a soft chirp. His scales had settled into a steady, calm blue, the first time they'd held one color for more than a few seconds. Outside, the sentinels circled. Their voices carried on the wind, cold and precise. Impurity detected. Anomaly in Sector 7. Prepare for cleansing. Lyra's heart pounded. She had spent her life hiding, surviving, waiting. But now, with Daniel here, with Kale glowing beside her, she felt something new. Purpose. They'll burn this place to ash if they find us, she said. Then we leave, Daniel said, before the rift closes completely. There's a secondary fracture point beneath the old observatory, Lyra said. I've mapped it. It's unstable, but it might hold long enough. Let's go, Daniel said, gripping the device tightly. They slipped out the back of the shelter as the first beam of cleansing light struck the dunes ahead. Kyle led the way, his small form darting between rocks and ruins. Lyra helped Daniel move as fast as he could, her mind racing. She had never left Ilaria. She didn't know what Earth was like. But she knew one thing, she didn't belong here anymore, not because she was flawed, but because she was meant for something else. As they reached the observatory, a crumbling tower of black stone crowned with broken lenses, the rift began to reopen above it. Swirling with colors that didn't exist in Ilaria's spectrum, the air crackled. Time bent. The sentinel spotted them. Beams of light lanced toward the tower. Jump, Daniel shouted. Lyra didn't look back. She grabbed Daniel's hand. Kale leapt onto her back, and together they leapt into the unknown. The last thing she saw before the light swallowed them was the twin moons of Ilaria, watching in silence as if finally understanding what they had cast away. And in that moment, Lyra felt no fear, only the quiet certainty that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The rift spat them out into cold darkness. Lyra gasped as icy air filled her lungs, sharp and metallic. Beneath her feet was not sand or crystal, but grated metal that hummed with distant machinery. Lights flickered overhead, harsh, white, and steady, unlike the soft glows of Ilaria. Kyle clung to her shoulder, his scales dimmed to a nervous gray. Daniel groaned, clutching his side, his face pale under the sterile light. They were inside a narrow corridor, walls lined with pipes and blinking panels. Alarms blared in the distance, muffled but urgent. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and something burnt. Where are we? Lyra whispered. Persephone Station, Daniel said, pushing himself upright. One of the last orbital refuges. If it's still standing. He tapped the device in his hand. It flickered, then projected a small map onto the wall. A red dot pulsed near the center, them. Green zones marked safe sectors. Most were gray now. Dead. We need to find Captain Rogers, he said. She'll know what to do. They moved slowly through the station. Every sound made Lyra flinch. The clang of a loose panel, the hiss of venting steam, the echo of their own footsteps. Kyle kept low, his eyes scanning every shadow. Daniel leaned on Lyra for support, his breath shallow. As they turned a corner, a figure stepped into view, tall, with short black hair and a patched uniform. A rifle was slung over her shoulder, but she didn't raise it. She just stared at Lyra, wide-eyed. "Daniel," the woman said. "You're alive." "Lena," Daniel managed. "This is Lyra. And Kale." Lena's gaze shifted to Lyra. She didn't glow. She wore strange woven clothes, her hair loose and unadorned, and on her shoulder sat a creature that looked like a dragon, but small, quiet, and watching her with clear intelligence. "You brought an elf," Lena said, voice tight. "After everything that's happened, she's not what you think," Daniel said. "The tether chose her. She's the match." Lena frowned but nodded. "Come on, Rogers is in medbay. We lost half the crew last week. The Hollow's getting stronger." They followed her through winding halls. Lyra saw faces in doorways, hollow-eyed, tired people wrapped in thin blankets. Children peeked from behind adults, their eyes dull. No laughter, no music, only the constant thrum of failing systems. In medbay, a woman with silver streaks in her brown hair stood over a console, barking orders. "Captain Rogers." She turned when they entered, her expression hardening at the sight of Lyra. "An off-worlder," Rogers said, "and not just any off-worlder. An Ilarian. She's not like the others," Daniel insisted. "She doesn't have the glow." But the tether reacted to her, strongly. Rogers studied Lyra. "Why should I trust you?" Lyra met her gaze. "I don't ask for trust. I ask for a chance. Your world is dying. Mine cast me out. Maybe that's why I'm here." Rogers was silent for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Fine, but if you're a threat, I'll space you myself." They gave Lyra a small room near the hydroponics bay. Daniel was treated for his injuries. Kale refused to leave Lyra's side, curling up on a shelf and watching everyone with wary eyes. That night, something strange happened. In hydroponics, the plants had been withering for months, yellow leaves, stunted growth, no fruit. But as Lyra walked past the rows of trays, the nearest stalk straightened. A bud on a tomato vine unfurled into a flower. A patch of wheatgrass deepened from pale green to rich emerald. A technician gasped. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Lyra said, confused. But it kept happening. Wherever she went, life stirred. Mold stopped spreading in storage. A child's cough eased after Lyra sat beside her bed. Even the station's flickering light steadied when she passed. Scientists came. They ran tests, scans, blood samples, resonance readings. They found nothing unusual. No energy output. No exotic particles. Just a young woman with warm skin and quiet eyes. Yet the effect was real. Kale, too, began to change. His scales brightened. One morning, as he stretched in the sun lamp chamber, a wisp of blue flame curled from his nostrils. He blinked in surprise, then tried again. This time, a steady stream of cool blue fire lit the room. Not hot like Ilarian dragonfire, but calm, clean, humming with a low frequency. Daniel watched, amazed. "It's like your presence unlocked him." "Or maybe we both needed to be here," Lyra said. But not everyone welcomed the change. Whispers spread through the station. Some called her a savior. Others called her a trick. A few believed she was the Hollow in disguise, softening them before the final strike. Then the attacks began. Not physical, not yet. But the Hollow's influence seeped in through the comms. Voices on the radio turned to static, then to whispers that echoed personal fears. Screens showed images of loved ones screaming in voids. Sleepers woke with nightmares so vivid they couldn't tell reality from dream. And the rifts, small, unstable tears in space, started appearing near the station. From them oozed black mist that dissolved metal and silenced sound. Rogers called an emergency meeting. "We can't hold out much longer. The Hollow is learning, adapting. It knows we have something it wants." "It wants her," Lena said, nodding at Lyra. "It senses the shift." Lyra stood. "Then let it come. But not here. Not while people are trapped." "You'd face it alone?" Daniel asked. "Not alone," she said, looking at Kale. "And not without a plan." She remembered the glyphs from Ilaria, the twin circles, the bridge. Earth and Ilaria weren't just separate worlds. They were echoes of each other. The Hollow wasn't just attacking Earth. It was trying to collapse the resonance between all connected dimensions. And Lyra, born without the expected Ilarian traits, was somehow the key to stabilizing that bond. That night, she worked with the station's engineers, using parts from Daniel's crashed pod and salvaged tech. They built a resonance amplifier, A device that could broadcast her frequency across the station's outer shell. It won't destroy the hollow, she explained, but it might push it back. Give us time. As they worked, Kyle circled the station outside, his new blue flame lighting the dark. For the first time, people looked up and felt hope. When the hollow struck again, it came in force. 3 rifts opened at once, vomiting thick tendrils of anti-light. The station shuddered. Lights died. Screams echoed through the halls. Lyra activated the amplifier. A soft hum filled the air. Not loud, but deep. Felt in the bones more than heard. The black mist recoiled. The rifts flickered. Kale roared. A sound like thunder wrapped in song and unleashed a spiral of blue fire that wrapped around the station like a shield. The hollow pulled back. Inside, people stood in silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Soon the whole station was cheering, not for a weapon, but for a woman who carried no weapon at all. Rogers found Lyra on the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You saved us," she said. "I just reminded life to keep going," Lyra replied. Daniel joined them. "They're calling you the anchor." "I'm not a symbol," Lyra said. "I'm just Lyra." But even as she spoke, she knew things had changed. She wasn't the outcast anymore. She was something new, something needed. Kyle landed on the railing, his scales glowing steady blue. He nudged her hand with his snout. Daniel smiled. "You're not alone anymore." Lyra looked at Earth below, scarred, broken, but still turning. And for the first time, she felt a connection deeper than blood or birth. This world had not cast her out. It had been waiting for her. And somewhere deep in the planet's core, the hollow stirred again, not in anger, but in curiosity. It had met its opposite. Not force, not light, but presence. And presence, it was learning, was harder to erase than it thought. Earth was not the world Daniel had grown up in. From the observation deck of Persephone Station, Lyra saw it clearly. The oceans were dark green and still, the continents cracked with veins of blackened soil. Cities that once sparkled with light now floated in broken pieces, held aloft by failing anti-grav fields, or drifting in slow ruin through the upper atmosphere. Smoke curled from the edges of the planet like ghostly fingers, and the sky above it pulsed with a sickly gray shimmer. The hollow's mark. Daniel stood beside her, his face tight. "It used to be blue," he said quietly. "So blue you could see it from the moon." Kale perched on the railing, his scales a deep indigo, sensing the sorrow in the air. He let out a low hum, not a growl, but a sound like wind through ancient trees. Lyra did not speak. She had seen ruins before, the dead cities of Ilaria's past buried under singing sands. But this was different. This was a world still breathing, still fighting, even as it bled. The station buzzed with new energy since the last attack. People moved with purpose again. Gardens and hydroponics bloomed with color and scent. Children played in the corridors, their laughter echoing where silence had lived for months. And wherever Lyra walked, life followed. A patch of mold on a wall would dry and flake away. A flickering light would steady. A tired engineer would stand a little taller, but the calm did not last. 3 days after the rifts closed, a distress signal crackled through the comms. It came from the lunar research outpost, Alpha 9. The voice on the other end was weak, trembling. "They took her. They said she's the cause. Please, help." The transmission cut out. Rogers gathered her team in the command center. Alpha 9 was studying deep Earth resonance. They believed the hollow's core is anchored to the planet's magnetic heart. They also had a prisoner. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "Lyra's mother," Rogers said. Lyra froze. Her breath caught. All this time she had believed her mother vanished into the wastes, lost to time or shame. But she had been taken, brought here, held on the moon. "It can't be," Daniel said. "How would they even know Ilarian tech was found in early hollow rifts?" Rogers explained. "Some believe Ilaria started this, that Lyra's people sent the hollow as a weapon." "That's not true," Lyra said, her voice steady but sharp. "My people fear the hollow too. They just don't understand it." "Truth doesn't matter when fear is in charge," Rogers said. "The lunar faction, led by a man named Voss, thinks your mother holds the key to controlling the hollow. And now they think you do too," Kale hissed, his scales flashing red at the edges. "We have to go," Lyra said. "It's a trap," Lena warned. "Maybe," Lyra replied. "But if my mother is alive, I can't leave her." Daniel stepped forward. Then we go together. The shuttle was small, built for cargo, not combat. They stripped it down, added shields from spare parts, and painted it matte black to avoid detection. Cale refused to stay behind. He curled into the co-pilot seat, wings folded tight, eyes fixed on the moon growing larger in the viewport. The journey took 6 hours. Silence filled the cabin, heavy with worry. Lyra stared at her hands. She remembered the obsidian shard, the words her mother left. "You are not broken. You are waiting." Maybe her mother had known this day would come. Alpha 9 was carved into the side of Tycho Crater. Once a peaceful science base, it now bristled with weapons and flickering energy fences. As they approached, a voice crackled over the comm. "Identify yourselves or be fired upon." "This is Daniel of Persephone Station," Daniel said. "We're here to talk." "Talk is over," the voice replied. "The anchor is ours now." The shuttle's systems flickered. An energy net shot out from the base, wrapping around them like a spider's web. Alarms blared. "Hold on," Daniel said, wrestling with the controls. But it was Kyle who acted first. With a roar that shook the cabin, he leapt from his seat, pressed his snout to the viewport, and exhaled. Blue fire surged from him. Not wild, but focused, precise. It struck the energy net and unraveled it like thread. The shuttle dropped free. "He's learning," Daniel whispered in awe. They landed in a service bay, engines smoking. Before they could exit, armed guards surrounded them. Their leader stepped forward, tall, with a scar across his cheek and cold eyes. "Voss, you brought the dragon," he said, glancing at Cale. "Good. It will make a fine specimen." "Where is she?" Lyra demanded. Voss smiled. "Alive, for now. But she's unstable. Her resonance is tearing her apart. We believe you can stabilize her, or finish what the Hollow started." He led them through sterile halls lit by harsh red lights. The air smelled of chemicals and fear. Deep inside the base, in a chamber lined with dampening fields, they found her. Lyra's mother sat on a metal cot, her hair streaked with white, her skin pale, but her eyes, still brown, still warm, lit up when she saw Lyra. "You came," she whispered. Lyra ran to her, dropping to her knees. "I thought you were gone." "They took me the night you were born," her mother said, touching Lyra's face. "They said your birth opened a rift, that you were a key. I tried to protect you, but they exiled me instead." Voss watched from the doorway. "She's been singing," he said. "A frequency that weakens the Hollow. But it's killing her. You share her biology. You can take over." "No," Daniel said. "You're using her." "We're saving Earth," Voss snapped. "Sacrifice is necessary." Lyra looked at her mother. "What is the song?" "It's not a song of power," her mother said softly. "It's a song of balance. The Hollow isn't evil. It's lost. It's the echo of a world that tried to merge with Earth long ago and failed. It's been screaming ever since." Cale stepped forward and nuzzled the woman's hand. His scales turned a gentle gold. Lyra understood. Her mother hadn't been fighting the Hollow. She'd been trying to calm it. "Let us go," Lyra said to Voss. "We can end this without more death." Voss hesitated. Then the alarms blared. "Hollow signature detected," a voice announced. Multiple rifts opening near the core. The ground shook. Lights flickered. On the monitors, Earth's surface rippled as if breathing. "It's coming for her," Voss whispered, fear in his voice for the first time. Lyra helped her mother stand. "We have to go to the core." "That's suicide," Lena said, who had come with them in secret. "Maybe," Lyra said. "But if the Hollow is tied to Earth's heart, then that's where the bridge must be built." Daniel nodded. "We'll take the deep core shuttle. It's old, but it can handle the pressure." Voss stepped aside. "And go. And if you fail, we all die anyway." The journey down was terrifying. The shuttle groaned as it plunged through layers of crust and mantle. Heat shields glowed red. Outside, the world was molten rock and swirling magnetic storms. Cale stayed close to Lyra, his fire casting a steady blue glow in the dark cabin. Her mother leaned against the wall, weak but awake. "You were born different because you carry both worlds in you," she said. "Ilaria gave you form. Earth gave you purpose." "I don't know how to stop it," Lyra admitted. "You don't stop it," her mother said. "You listen. Deep in the planet's core they found it. Not a monster, not a beast, but a swirling mass of darkness shaped like a broken sphere pulsing with sorrow. It hovered above the molten iron, tethered by threads of anti-light. And as they approached, it turned toward them, not with rage but with recognition. Lyra stepped out of the shuttle, Cale at her side, her mother leaning on Daniel. She didn't raise a weapon. She didn't chant a spell. She simply stood and opened her chest to the silence, and then softly, she began to hum. It was the same tune her mother had sung. Simple, wordless, full of ache and hope. Cale joined her, his fire rising in gentle waves that didn't burn but soothed. Daniel held Lyra's mother as tears streamed down her face. The hollow shuddered. Its form flickered. For a moment it looked like a child, then a star, then a memory, and then slowly it began to dissolve, not in defeat but in peace. Above them, on the surface, the gray sky cleared. The floating city stabilized. The ocean stirred with new currents. On Persephone Station, people looked out the windows and saw something they hadn't seen in years. Sunlight. Pure, golden and real. Lyra stood in the heart of the world. Exhausted but whole. She wasn't a weapon. She wasn't a savior. She was a bridge. And bridges, she now knew, were meant to be walked across. Not worshipped, not feared, but used to connect what was broken. Cale curled around her feet, his scales now a calm, steady blue. Daniel smiled, his hand finding hers. Earth was not healed. Not yet, but it was healing. And Lyra, born different in her world, had finally found where she belonged. After the core stabilized, Lyra returned to Persephone Station with her mother, Daniel and Cale. The people cheered, but Lyra felt no joy in their praise. Something was wrong. The hollow had faded, yes, but not vanished. Deep in her bones she felt a pull, a quiet hum that echoed from beneath the lunar surface. It was faint but steady, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Her mother sensed it too. "It's not over," she whispered one night as they sat in the hydroponics bay watching wheatgrass sway under soft lights. "The hollow you calmed was only a fragment. The true core remains hidden." "Where?" Lyra asked. "Beneath Alpha 9, her mother said. "In the old ruins. The ones older than the base, older than Ilaria, older than Earth." Daniel frowned. "That's impossible. The moon's geologically dead." "Not dead," her mother corrected. "Sleeping." Before they could plan their next move, Voss returned. He arrived alone, his face drawn, his uniform torn. He knelt before Lyra in the common hall, surprising everyone. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought control was the answer. But you showed us another way. The hollow's echo is still growing under the moon. It's feeding on fear, on the memories we buried there. If it wakes fully, it will unravel both worlds." Rogers studied him. "Why should we trust you?" "Because I have nothing left to gain," Voss said. "Only everything to lose." Lyra believed him. She saw the same grief in his eyes that she had seen in the hollow's core. He was not evil. Just afraid. They prepared in secret. The deep core shuttle was damaged, so they modified a mining crawler. Slow, armored, built to drill through rock. Cal refused to ride inside. He would fly alongside, his blue fire ready to cut through any barrier. The journey back to the moon was tense. Lyra's mother grew weaker with every hour. The song she carried had taken its toll. "I won't make it to the end," she said softly. "But you will." "Don't say that," Lyra pleaded. "Listen," her mother said, pressing a hand to Lyra's chest. "Your power was never in your blood. It was in your choice to care. That's what the hollow could never understand." They landed near Alpha 9 under cover of darkness. Voss disabled the base's sensors, clearing their path. Deep beneath the crater floor they found the entrance, a circular hatch covered in symbols that matched the ones Lyra had studied in the Ilarian wastes. Twin circles, a bridge. The crawler drilled through the rock. As they descended, the air grew thick and cold. Walls of black stone pulsed with faint light like veins under skin. Kyle flew ahead, his scales shifting to a deep violet. Alert, wary. At the bottom they found a cavern so vast it swallowed sound. In its center floated a sphere of darkness larger than a city, swirling with trapped stars and broken memories. This was the true hollow. Not a weapon, not a monster, but a wound in reality itself. It had been here for eons, waiting for a voice that could speak its pain. And around it, chained in rings of dampening energy, were hundreds of figures. Elves, humans, beings from worlds no one knew. All resonant souls captured over centuries, their frequencies used to keep the hollow contained. And fed. Among them was Lyra's mother's twin sister, her aunt, still alive, her eyes wide with silent warning. "They used us," her aunt whispered as they freed her. "The first Ilarians came here long ago. They tried to merge with Earth's energy field. It failed. The backlash created the hollow. To survive, they sealed it here and left guardians, us, to keep it quiet. But silence only made it stronger. Lyra understood now. Her people hadn't exiled her because she was flawed. They exiled her because they feared she would hear the call. And she had. The hollow turned toward her. Not with anger, but with longing. Daniel stepped forward. "We can't fight it." "We don't have to," Lyra said. She walked toward the sphere, Kale at her side, his fire burning steady blue. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "You don't stop it. You listen." She closed her eyes and began to sing. Not a song of power, not a chant of control, but a lullaby, the one her mother never taught her, but that lived in her bones. Simple, wordless, full of love and loss. Kale joined her, his fire weaving into the sound, creating a harmony that vibrated through the stone. Daniel played a soft rhythm on a metal pipe, grounding the frequency. Voss and the freed prisoners added their voices, each in their own tongue, their own tone. The hollow shuddered. The chains cracked. The trapped souls faded, not in death, but in release. But the core remained. It needed more. Lyra knew what to do. She stepped into the sphere. Kale cried out, but did not follow. Daniel reached for her, but Voss held him back. She has to go alone. Inside the hollow, Lyra saw everything. The birth of Ilaria, the rise of Earth. The moment the two worlds almost touched and shattered. She felt the grief of 1,000 lost connections, and she offered the one thing it had never known, acceptance. "You are not broken," she whispered. "You are waiting." The hollow stilled. Then, slowly, it began to dissolve. Not into nothing, but into light. Golden, warm, and quiet, the light spread through the cavern, up through the moon's crust, and into the sky. On Persephone Station, people looked up and saw the moon glow with soft gold light for the first time in human memory. On Ilaria, the twin moons brightened, and the forest sang. Lyra emerged from the cavern unharmed. Kale rushed to her, nuzzling her hand. Daniel pulled her into a tight hug. Her mother's sister smiled. "You did what we could not. You didn't seal the wound. You healed it." Back on the station, Lyra stood on the observation deck once more. Earth below was greener. Clouds moved with purpose. Oceans sparkled. She was no longer an outcast, no longer just a bridge. She was whole. And for the first time, she felt the quiet hum of two worlds finally in tune. The golden light from the moon faded slowly, like a sigh after a long cry. On Persephone Station, people stood in silence, not cheering, not crying, just breathing. Deep, full breaths they had forgotten how to take. The air itself felt lighter, as if a weight no one could name had lifted from the world. Lyra stood at the edge of the observation deck, her hands resting on the cool railing. Kale lay coiled at her feet, his scales a calm, steady blue rising and falling with each slow breath. Daniel leaned against the wall beside her, his arms crossed, watching Earth turn below. It was no longer a dying planet. It was healing. Forests spread where ash had lain. Rivers ran clear. The floating cities had begun their slow descent, returning to the ground they were meant to touch. Her mother's sister, now called Marin, approached quietly. She wore simple clothes, her silver hair loose, her eyes clear. "The last of the chains are gone," she said. "The hollow is at peace. And so are we," Lyra nodded. "What happens now, Marin said. "We rebuild. Not just Earth, not just Ilaria, but the space between." News had come from Ilaria through a newly stabilized rift. The High Seer who once declared Lyra a flaw had stepped down. In her place rose a council of elders who had listened to the changed hum of their world. The forest sang differently now. The crystals glowed with a softer light, and for the first time, they understood that difference was not weakness. It was evolution. A small group of Ilarians had already crossed over, not as conquerors or saviors, but as students. They walked among Earth's people, learning how to grow food in soil, how to mend with hands instead of light, how to laugh without harmony. In return, they taught Earth's children how to listen to the wind, how to read the stars not as points of light, but as voices. Lyra was not asked to lead. She was not crowned or honored with titles. Instead, she was simply asked to be. To walk between worlds, not as a ruler, but as a friend. One morning, she stood on a newly built platform near the edge of a restored forest in what was once the American Midwest. The ground was soft with new grass. Birds she had never seen before darted between trees. Kale circled above, his wings catching the sun, his fire now a gentle warmth that helped seeds sprout when he passed overhead. Daniel joined her, holding 2 cups of real coffee, grown in a greenhouse just a mile away. "They're calling it the Bridge Grove," he said, handing her one. "I didn't ask for that," Lyra said, smiling. "You never do," he replied. "But people need names for hope." She sipped the coffee. It was bitter, sweet, alive. Nothing like the nutrient paste she'd known on the station. Nothing like the starlight tea of Valeria. It was Earth. And it was hers. Kale landed beside her, nudging her hand. His scales shimmered gold for a moment, a rare color, one he only showed when he was deeply content. Marin arrived with a group of children, human and Alarian, playing together, their differences unnoticed. Their laughter the same. One small Alarian girl, her skin faintly glowing, held the hand of a human boy with dirt on his knees. They ran to Lyra, not with awe, but with ease. "Can Kale show us the blue fire again?" the boy asked. Kale puffed gently, and a soft spiral of cool flame danced in the air, lighting up the morning without burning a single leaf. The children clapped, then ran off to chase butterflies. Daniel watched them go. "It's working," he said quietly. "Not because of weapons or magic, because you showed us how to be kind to what we don't understand." Lyra looked at him. "You showed me that too. You didn't fear me when you fell from the sky. You saw me." "Because you were exactly who I needed to find," he said. They did not speak of love in grand words. They did not need to. It lived in the way he saved her a seat at meals, in the way she waited for him after long shifts, in the quiet nights when they sat under the stars and said nothing at all. Weeks passed. The Bridge Grove grew. Homes were built from reclaimed wood and Alarian crystal, blending both worlds without erasing either. Gardens bloomed with plants from Earth and vines from Alaria, feeding each other in ways scientists still couldn't explain. One evening, as the twin moons of Alaria rose alongside Earth's single moon, Lyra stood alone on a hill overlooking the grove. Kale rested his head in her lap. The wind carried the scent of rain and pine and something sweet she couldn't name. She thought of her mother. Gone now. Her song finally finished. She thought of the wastes of Alaria, where she had once been alone. She thought of the Hollow, not as a monster but as a lost child finally held, and she knew her journey was not about victory. It was about connection. A soft chime sounded behind her. Daniel approached, holding a small box made of woven sky glass and oak. Inside was a ring, not of gold or gemstone but of fused earth soil and Alarian crystal, shaped like 2 circles touching. "It's not a promise," he said. "It's a choice. To keep walking together." Lyra took it and slipped it on her finger. It hummed softly, not with power but with peace. Below them, lights glowed in the grove. Warm human lights mixed with the soft shimmer of Ilarian lanterns. Children played. Elders talked. Kale lifted his head and let out a low, contented rumble. Lyra looked up at the sky, where stars from both worlds shone without boundary. She was born different in her world, but here, on this quiet hill, with her dragon at her side and her hand in Daniel's, she was perfectly matched, and that was enough.